Good morning, my friends. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, and it appears that court has been canceled today. And I don't know why, but Ted Daniel is tweeting, and he doesn't know why either. He says 3 minutes ago they just got an email from the court that it's canceled today due to unavoidable circumstances. Unavoidable circumstances. So I have no idea. What is that about? Yeah, BN Trouble says that would be nice if it was the feds.
Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning, sir.
Yesterday, when we left off, we had been discussing one of the trips you made out to 34 Fairview, specifically on an occasion in which you met Chief Berkowitz. I want to ask you a couple of questions to follow up on those questions that I asked yesterday. Did you have an opportunity to take a look at this report?
I did.
Did that refresh your recollection as to the items generally that you recovered on February 10th?
Yes, it did.
Did you recover approximately 6 pieces of red, black, and clear plastic and 14 pieces of glass and plastic fragments?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So, other than saying in the general vicinity, did you seek to actually document where each item was found? In other words, by cross coordinates or some other such manner?
The exact location where each item was recovered from was not documented with a picture or GPS location. It was still within the general vicinity of that 40 to 50 square feet or so by my approximation.
But you were working on an assumption at that point, on an assumption that there was some sort of an impact at 34 Fairview, correct?
I don't understand what you're asking. The evidence was pointing that impact took place because there was damage to the taillight. Large chunks of it was missing, and we were locating pieces that were consistent with texture, color, and size fragments from that SUV on the lawn. So I wasn't assuming anything. The evidence was speaking to us.
It's what was told to me as evidence.
You weren't there at the time of the incident.
No, of course not.
By the crime scene.
So you were utilizing assumptions and presumptions based on information that was provided to you. Yes or no?
As crime scene that was there, it says his glass.
We work by learning information, collecting evidence, and getting that evidence to suggest what happened. That evidence is tested, and then it's all put together into the case.
You used the word to suggest what happened, correct?
Yes.
Another word for a suggestion is if something is suggested to you, you then receive it and assume certain things based on that suggestion.
What we do with suggestions, we corroborate them. A witness statement is, I guess you can say, a suggestion, and then we corroborate it through evidence.
And of course, you make assumptions based on those suggestions, correct? Yes or no?
We have theories.
Another term for a theory is an assumption or presumption, correct?
I guess in some respect you can say that,
Okay.
but I'm
So the answer
not
is yes.
I'm not going to argue about semantics here.
Well, you'll agree that words matter, right? I mean, you're testifying, so words do matter.
Words do matter. That's important.
It was told to me.
We
by
had
the
those
crime
statements.
scene.
I hit him. We had the statements that, oh my God, did I hit him? So utilizing that information with the evidence at that point that we had was a broken cocktail glass. So a theory would be, why is the cocktail glass broken? Because it came into contact with the victim. The more information that we are able to corroborate statements and collect evidence that further corroborates other information is helpful in the investigation. That's how investigations develop. If we knew everything we knew from day one, there wouldn't be a process of developing investigation.
So the answer to my question, Sergeant, is you were working off of a theory, correct? Do you know what the word theory means?
I'm sorry, English is like a third language for me, so if you can bring up the Webster's Dictionary, I can read it out.
You want me to pull up the Webster's Dictionary? You want to take a break real quick and pull up the Webster's Dictionary to define a word that you used in an answer about 40 seconds ago? We're working off of a theory, quote unquote. You said it, not me. You want me to go get a dictionary so we can figure out for the jurors what that word means?
Objection.
All right, sustained. Let's move along, please.
You would agree with me, Sergeant Buchanan, that if your theory was that there was an impact, the site of that impact would be incredibly important, correct?
Very important, yes.
You didn't photograph it? Is that
No,
right?
I did not.
You didn't do any plotting of cross coordinates, which would have been easy to do to determine exactly where each piece was found, correct?
It would not be easy for me. I don't know how to do that.
You've never learned how to plot cross coordinates?
I don't have the tools to GPS coordinate an item.
You take 2 points that are stable. You know what cross coordinates are? Take 2 points that are stable, like for instance, I don't know, let's pick something, like a flagpole that doesn't move. And you draw a line, pull a string directly over the item that you find. Then you take another stable item that's perpendicular to that, pull that straight, put it down. That's exactly, you measure the distance between the two, that's exactly where that item, where those two strings cross, that's exactly where that item's found. That's cross coordinates, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
You ever heard of that?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know what cross coordinates are?
No.
Do you know how to plot cross coordinates?
You just demonstrated to me.
Does that sound reasonable and easy?
What you explained sounds easy, yes.
And you didn't do that.
I did not.
You also didn't, by the way, you had your cell phone when you went out there on February 10th, correct?
I would assume so, yes.
Your cell phone has a camera built into it, correct?
Yes, it does.
You indicated on direct examination you didn't think it was necessary to call out a forensic photographer to photograph and photo document where these items were found. Is that right?
That's right.
But you could have pulled your cell phone out and taken photographs of them, right?
I guess I could have, yes.
There's a report after the fact that establishes that they were recovered generally at 34 Fairview Road on February 10th. But is there a report that describes exactly where on the property at 34 Fairview or off the property at 34 Fairview these 20 items were found? That's a question. I'm waiting.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Do you need me to repeat the question?
Was there a question? Go ahead, please.
Sure. Is there a report that documents exactly where at 34 Fairview on the property these 20-odd items were found exactly?
Exact location is the same general vicinity. If it was something different, if we located these items across the street, different section of the yard, that would have been documented.
Does this look like the photograph that you were just reviewing?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Wool, can we make that a little larger so it's more legible?
A date collected is 2/10/22.
So that's the date that we've been talking about, correct?
That is correct.
And this indicates collected by, and who's that?
That's myself, Sergeant Buchanan. 6 pieces of red, black, and clear plastic.
You didn't fill this bag out, did you?
No, I did not.
Who did?
I do not know.
Who did?
I don't know.
You don't recognize the handwriting?
No, I do not.
You don't recognize the handwriting of your partner and subordinate, Michael Proctor?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are you aware that Michael Proctor filled this out?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you with Michael Proctor when this was bagged?
No, I was not. I was by myself.
Did you give the items of evidence to Michael Proctor to bag?
No, I did not.
Who did you give it to bag?
I bagged it myself.
Whose handwriting is that?
I do not know.
If you bagged it yourself, why didn't you fill out the evidence envelope?
I bagged it and turned it over, and I told him exactly where it was and what time. So someone else wrote the information.
You just said, I bagged it and told him.
Turned it over.
No, sir. No, sir. What you just said was, I bagged it and turned it over to him. And you don't know who it is that you turned it over to? Who's the him?
Turned it over to them.
Who's
Them.
Okay.
Whoever wrote it. Whoever wrote it.
So we're just in a circle here. We can turn the lights
Objection
up.
to the commentary.
So, Mr. Jackson, no comments, okay? Just
Understood.
questions.
I apologize. So you had the evidence and turned it over to someone whom you don't know and can't identify. Is that what we understand?
It was a member of the Massachusetts State Police assigned to our office. It wasn't just a random person. I can't specifically identify who it was or who wrote on that bag. I know it was a trusted member of our unit and part of the investigative team.
How do you know it was a trusted member of your unit and a part of the investigative team if you can't tell these jurors who it was? How do you know that?
Because I wouldn't have turned it over to a random stranger.
Okay, so let's figure out the possibilities. Who are among those to whom you would have turned this stuff over? Who are among them?
There was 4 troopers in the detective unit at that point assigned to homicide.
Let's name them. Who are they?
There was Trooper DeChico, Trooper Kakowski, Trooper Dunn, and Trooper Mike Proctor.
As you sit here today, do you believe or do you recall turning it over to Trooper Dunn?
Objection.
We're gonna go through each person?
Every one of them. There's only 4.
I'll allow this question.
Do you remember turning it over to Trooper Dunn?
No,
Do you remember turning it over to Trooper Pikowski?
no,
Do you remember turning it over to Trooper DeChico?
no,
Do you remember turning it over to Michael Proctor?
no.
So it might have been just a random stranger. Right?
That's a ridiculous suggestion.
Have you ever seen Trooper Proctor's handwriting before?
Yes,
Matter of fact, you've seen it, I'm guessing, not dozens, maybe hundreds of times, correct?
not hundreds of times, no.
Dozens of times
Sure,
over the years.
sure.
On evidence bags, on logs, on notes, things of that nature.
Some evidence bags, some notes.
Can you take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize it?
The whole thing or just the front page?
No, just flip through and tell me if you recognize generally what that is.
It appears to be a bunch of handwritten notes from possibly witness interviews.
Handwritten notes by whom?
Well, you labeled it Proctor. I don't know who it is based on the individuals interviewed. Might suggest that these are Michael Proctor's notes.
Okay, so you're testifying that I labeled that Proctor?
I don't know.
Right, so you don't know.
Well,
So why do say- why do
you provided a document to me, so.
Right, I know. And then you just testified that I labeled that Proctor. How do you know I labeled that Proctor?
Well, I got it from you.
You didn't see me write that, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Questions, please.
Sure. Can you turn to the first tab? The purple tab.
Some of these came off.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm just interested in the purple tab. Do you see a series of handwritten notes appear to be from Michael Proctor?
Sure. But these,
Highlight.
yes.
What's the word that's handwritten in that highlight?
Objection.
So why don't we come to sidebar with this stuff, please?
How do you know that you told the individual to whom you passed this along the time, the location, the date? How do you know that as you sit here?
Because that information was then put on the bag and documented.
But you can't even remember who you talked to.
I do not remember specifically who I talked to, no.
If you can't remember who you talked to, you don't remember what you said. Goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
That's not true. I might not remember now, but the day that it was bagged on February 10th, 2022, I remembered. And that's why the accurate, detailed information is on the bag.
A bag you didn't fill out, correct?
That's correct.
And information provided to someone you can't remember.
Today, I can't remember, no.
You say turn them over, you're talking about turning them over to someone whom we don't know, correct? As we sit here.
Right now, I don't have a memory of who I turned it over to, but it was a member of our homicide team.
So the next time, Sergeant Buchanan, the next time there's any documentation about those items is March 14th, nearly 6 weeks later.
I don't know that to be correct, no.
But you can't point to any documentation. You're looking at the logs. You can't point to any documentation indicating the chain of custody of these items between February 10th and March 14th. Is that right?
This is simply a log from the lab.
Yes or no? Can you point to any documentation?
Ask the question.
Can you point to any documentation indicating where those items went, whose possession they were in what circumstance, between February 10th and March 14th? Can you point to any document?
I know that it was collected on February 10th.
Right.
It's documented that it was collected. It was at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office before it was logged into the lab for processing.
You keep answering the same question that I'm not asking, sir.
Objection.
Sustained. No comments, Mr. Jackson.
Sergeant Buchanan, do you understand my question? I'm asking, can you point to a single document for these jurors as to where those items went and in whose possession they remained, specifically between February 10th, when you lost sight of them, and March 14th, when the crime lab received them?
Objection.
Sustained.
May I approach?
Yes. No,
I'm
just
sorry.
him.
Mr.
Just for
Brennan,
the evidence.
Just for the evidence. False start. Can you look at first of all, look at the bottom and tell me if that number designator appears to be the same as on the evidence, as on the previous page?
Item number is 715.
Okay. And that comports with what we just saw in the previous page, correct?
That is the same number.
All right. You went out to 34 Fairview on February 10th, 24 hours before February 11th, right? To look for additional items of evidence, correct?
I collected, I believe, 20 pieces in total, 6 and 14, the day prior, yes.
You see the size of this, according to the rule. General,
Yes.
how big is that?
It appears 6 inches.
Okay. That's 6 inches is the size of a dollar bill, right?
That's correct.
It also looks like it may be more than that from top to bottom, 6 to 7 inches, top to bottom.
Possibly a little bit more, yeah.
Okay. You didn't see this item on February 10th when you were there, correct?
If I saw that item, I would have picked it up.
Right. Wasn't there, was it?
That's not what I'm saying. I said if I saw it, I would have picked it up.
But you didn't see it, did you?
I did not see it, obviously. No.
According to the information that we just presented, this item was found the next day by Trooper Michael Crocker. Right.
Based on the information presented, that's what it says, yes.
You see a date of collection on this evidence envelope?
Yes, this photograph indicates 2/18/22.
And collected by whom?
Trooper Proctor. It's more than 6 inches. I mean, probably 7, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
I know this is a little bit of a challenge, but how from top to bottom, what would you estimate the distance to be at its longest points?
3.5 inches, I guess.
Okay. Again, the last time you were out at the location with very little snow on the ground, you collected certain items of evidence on February 10th, correct?
February 10th was the last time I collected. I said there was still snow on the ground, maybe in piles where it was excavated. There was very little, but there was still snow on the ground.
You didn't see this, and you didn't see the one before it either, did you?
If I saw any of these items, they would have been collected. We did not excavate anything. We simply allowed the thawing and natural recession of the snow to reveal additional items. Can you repeat that, please?
Sure, you learned that where they fit into the investigative puzzle is that they pulled up behind Karen Reed's SUV.
That's not correct.
What is not correct about that?
They arrived simultaneously. Karen Reed took a right onto Fairview. They yielded to them and followed towards 34 Fairview, stopping at the driveway as Karen Reed proceeded further up.
Did you listen to the testimony in this case up to this point?
No.
There's a sequestration order, correct? Correct?
Yes, yes.
It means you can't listen to the testimony of witnesses, eyewitnesses who are testifying in front of these jurors.
Correct, yes.
You don't know how witnesses have testified from that witness box in front of these jurors, correct?
I have no idea.
Okay. So your information is that they pulled up simultaneously, correct?
Objection.
Is that what you just testified to?
That's my memory from what the interview produced.
You instructed your subordinate, Michael Proctor, to interview those witnesses in August of 2022, correct?
I'm not sure when they were interviewed. I don't have a memory of instructing him to go interview them.
Why don't you just tell me whether or not that refreshes your recollection as to communications you had with Michael Proctor specifically? Thank you, Sergeant. Does that refresh your recollection as to a communication that you had with Michael Proctor?
Unfortunately, it does not. I will take the document at face value. I do not have a memory of having these communications, but I will take the document if it's authentic and it is true and accurate that it took place. But I do not have a memory of sending these text messages. Also, my name's misspelled in there. Is that from the extraction, or where is that from?
Couldn't tell you. Wasn't me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't take credit for that. Thanks. If your memory is not refreshed about that particular communication, do you remember in general communicating with Michael Proctor about interviewing Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
Would that have been something that you would have found important relatively early on in the investigation? These are eyewitnesses. Let's get them interviewed.
Yes, it is important to interview anyone that's an eyewitness. Sometimes it takes longer because... Are you listening? I'm sorry.
Thanks.
You asked the question. I just wanted to answer.
I know the answers to my own questions. Go ahead.
Okay. So while we want to interview every eyewitness, sometimes an important fact is already detailed and witnessed by another witness. So in this situation, we had already interviewed one of the occupants, the one that was driving, the one that had the observed the events taking place.
So it would be important, obviously, to interview witnesses in a timely manner.
In some instances, yes, yes.
Do you remember when Michael Proctor actually interviewed Ricky D'Antonio and Heather Maxson?
I do not have a memory of that, no.
Sergeant, take a look at that. I thought that was a report from somebody else. It's a report from you, actually. Tell me if that refreshes your recollection as to when Ricky D'Antonio was actually interviewed.
Yes, this report, authored by me, states that on Saturday, September 2nd, he was interviewed.
What year?
2023.
So that would have been a year and a half later, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that's a timely report or rather a timely interview for an eyewitness, the gravity of which is described in your report?
We again, perfect ideal world scenario. It would be quicker. We do the best we can.
You indicated that your memory was that the cars arrived simultaneously. That's a interview with Ricky D'Antona. You see the highlighted portion?
I see it.
Ricky D'Antona actually told you that the car was
Objection.
parked, correct?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach people?
Yes, can I see that, please?
Isn't it true that when you interviewed Ricky D'Antona, he indicated that upon their arrival at the home, 34 Fairview, quote, a dark-colored SUV was parked in front of the home facing up towards Chapman Street. That's what he told you, correct?
That's what the report indicates for Ricky's interview. Yes.
And in fact, you wrote this report based on Ricky's interview.
I wrote that report. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching. Please smash the like on your way out, and please comment respectfully, share the stream out so people can see it. Court was canceled today because there was some sort of medical issue with one of the people involved in the case. We're not saying who, because HIPAA.